Now, one of the frontrunners in Kenya's presidential election has picked a veteran female politician and one-time rival as his running mate. Raila Odinga named Martha Karua to the role on Monday, making her the first woman to run on a major political party's presidential ticket. Ms. Karua is a former justice minister from the Central region, which is seen as a key battleground in the August 9 election. She has been outspoken on corruption in the past, decrying Kenyan politics as a rich boys' club and backing calls for the International Criminal Court to investigate the violence which broke out after previous elections. Her alliance with Mr. Odinga is something of an about turn. Back in 2007, while Justice Minister, she accused Mr. Odinga's opposition Orange Democratic Movement of ethnic cleansing after the nationwide clashes that followed that year's disputed election. Mr. Odinga called the accusations outrageous. Now, for more on this, we're now being joined by communication strategist and Arise contributor, Mark Bichachi. Mark, thank you for joining us on Newsday.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, it looks as though the running mate for President or Vice President Raila Odinga has, done a bit of flip-flopping, for lack of a better term at this time. But do you think that this, including her as a female running mate, has given him an edge in this bid for presidency?
Well, there are two answers to your question. First and foremost, Kenyan flip-flopping in politics is quite normal. In fact, every senior politician has been in every other senior politician's coalition, so this is not something new for the Kenyan political landscape. And because of that, this particular flip-flop is very key. If you listened to her speech, she said that she endorses Raila Odinga using the Swahili terms that Raila Odinga used to actually endorse the same President Mwai Kibaki 20-odd years ago. So yes, it has serious significance in terms of, number one, attracting the all-important Central Kenya vote, which is 35% of the Kenyan electorate. It is also important in terms of energizing and invigorating the female vote across the country, because the issue of female inclusion in Kenyan politics has been on the table for a long time. It's been talked about for years. So now this literally answers that question of bringing the women folk into the center of Kenyan politics. As you've said, no one else has come within a hair's breadth as she is now to the presidency, to the deputy presidency, and this is very critical. So is it an energizing ticket? Yes, it is. Is it attractive to the people of Central Kenya? Yes, it is. And it is also attractive to the women folk. And if you look at the polls that were just released today, it indicates a significant, almost 4-point leap ahead for the candidature of Raila Odinga and Martha Karua.
All right, Mark. She made some very weighty allegations talking about corruption, ethnic cleansing. How is this being viewed and how is this being taken?
Well, the thing is, if you look at the spectrum of the candidates involved today, that opposition party had the current deputy president, William Ruto. He was part of those statements. Raila Odinga was part of that statement, and the current president, Uhuru Kenyatta and Martha Karua, were on the other side. So Kenya is an interesting country in the sense that we do not hold on to the historical injustices of our country. We do not hold on to those memories very dearly. In fact, what happens in Kenya, two erstwhile enemies, the communities that come from the Kalenjin Rift and Central Kenya, formed a coalition, which is the Jubilee Coalition, which has ruled this country for the last 10 years. So forming another coalition between Central Kenya and the western part of our country in Nyanza is not anything new. So whereas people viewing Kenya from the outside would wonder how these two can gel together, this for us is modus operandi. It is what happens in Kenyan politics.
Well, Mark, let's talk about the Vice President, William Ruto, who is also vying for the presidency. He has picked businessman Rigathi Gachagua as his running mate. Now, this is a man facing trial on charges of corruption and money laundering. How are Kenyans reacting to that? Will that work against him at the polls?
So the issue of corruption as and being implicated in corruption as a political disjoint or a political disruptor is very low on the cards in Kenya, simply because so many politicians have been mentioned in corruption that Kenyans have become insensitive to it. They've become almost callous to it, and therefore the truth is it is not going to impact severely on the ticket of William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua. Yes, it will have an effect within the urban areas where people are more enlightened. It will have an effect among the learned Kenyans, but by and large, it will not move the needle by more than 2%. Well, that 2% is important in this particular election, but it will not move the needle by much. So it is an issue. It will be talked about. You can be sure Martha Karua and Raila Odinga will use it in the campaign trail, but it is not the axe that will fell the tree of William Ruto's candidature. Given that both Rigathi Gachagua and William Ruto himself have been known to have these cases for a long, long time.
Well, Mark, as of 2 weeks ago, a record 47 independents were vying for the office of the presidency. I'd just like to know if these 47 have actually been cleared by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, because clearance of all 47 would have definitely made political history in Kenya.
Yes, that will be serious political history. That will be 4 times the highest number of presidential candidates we've ever had. No, they've not been cleared yet. That process is slated for next month when campaigns are actually supposed to officially begin. We suspect that many of them will not be able to make it. But the thing is, the truth is that also I think about at least half will be able to make it. So we'll be talking about 24 candidates on the ballot, which will also be quite the record for the country. So the reason they are running, though, is quite interesting, because they all know that they will most likely not make it. So many of them are running to make a statement. Others are running for notoriety so that they are well known. Others are running because in previous elections, outliers who have run and gotten a number of votes have gotten some level of recognition within society. So these under candidates are not running for the purpose of winning an election. They are running for personal reasons, mostly for notoriety.
All right, Mark, we know that there are some key indices and factors that are synonymous with African elections. Of course, we see the economy becomes a little bit turbulent, and the market becomes very, very volatile. We see insecurity literally skyrocketing. Is that the case as we build up to these elections?
Well, yes, the state of the economy, and more specifically the effect of inflation on the Kenyan consumer, are issues in this particular campaign. Of course, the Deputy President William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua are blaming the state of affairs in the economy squarely on the sitting president, while claiming that he as deputy was sidelined. He was not able to do anything, and once he gets into office, he'll be able to do something about it. Raila Odinga, on the other hand, is running on a platform of continuing the good work that has been done in terms of infrastructure development, in terms of expanding our economy, in terms of actually changing the fiscal policy to make it easy to do business in Kenya. Now, whether these two ideologies will come to a head remains to be seen. But be that as it may, whoever becomes president will have very little wiggle room, given the state of indebtedness the country is in, given the state of foreign repayments we need to do, and the rate of growth that we have. So I expect that whoever wins this election will actually be forced to continue with the fiscal policies that obtain. Otherwise, he'll find himself leading a country country in serious political doldrums. So in terms of the economy on the campaign trail, yes, it is big, but I think it's being paid lip service simply because there's not much wiggle room left for any president coming in to do anything much different.
Well, Mark, talking about the deputy being sidelined while in office, it seems Mr. Ruto's campaign is running on the theme of the hustlers versus dynasties. Can you talk to us more about this theme?
Well, the theme is, as you said quite correctly, is about hustlers versus dynasties. Now, its most narrow application is towards the political class, saying that Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, who happen to be on one side, are children of those who've been in politics before. Of course, President Kenyatta being the son of the first president, and Raila Odinga being the son of the first vice president, and therefore William Ruto has been campaigning, saying that it is these families that have ruined Kenya, it is these families that have brought Kenya down, and it's time for people whose parents are unknown, people who've lifted themselves up by the bootstraps to lead the country. The broader explanation of this is that it is literally being translated as an election between the haves and the have-nots, where Raila Odinga represents the haves and William Ruto is positioning himself as the one who represents the have-nots, and has totally changed his economic philosophy over the last 2 years to say that he is totally pro almost a welfare state that takes care of its people. So this us versus them dynamic, of course, has had effects. We've seen people, border riders, which are motorbike riders here in Kenya, attacking people in cars and shouting hustler versus dynasty. So we've already seen this impact across the country. It is only our hope that it will not continue, because in its narrow definition, it's of course hard to impress that these are dynasties, simply because we've had many vice presidents, we've had a number of presidents now, and none of their children is running for office. But the narrative is catchy, simply because there's a level of fatigue given the effects of the pandemic, the effects of lockdown, the effects of the global downturn in terms of economics. Yes, there is fatigue with status quo, but I'm not sure whether it is the best way for our country to divide ourselves along class lines.
All right, quickly, I want to get your opinion about this, because this is the first time since the independence in Kenya that a Kikuyu is not running for the highest office in the land. Talk to us about this dynamic. How will it play out? We know that this is why several of them have actually chosen a Kikuyu to be a running mate. Do you think this would affect how Kenyans will vote?
Yes, it will. And as I said at the beginning, Kikuyus form 35, Mount Kenya in general as a region forms 35% of the electorate, so it's a vote-rich region. This is only the first time since 1992 when multi-party started where the Kikuyus do not have a candidate of stature. They do have some candidates, but none of them is within has a chance of winning the presidency. So what is going to happen is, for the first time since 1992, because in 1992 it happened again, the Kikuyu are going to have to split their votes the same way they did in 2002 when it was Mwai Kibaki versus Uhuru Kenyatta, and that split vote is what Raila Odinga is hoping to finally get him over there.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but we're completely out of time. Arise contributor Mark Bichachi, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.